I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to The Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today, we're very pleased to be talking to Sam O'Brien, President and CEO of Bridges. So stay with us for a conversation with Sam. Sam, thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We were walking in, and I was thinking it was 3 months that you've been the new President and CEO, but it's actually 8 months.
8 months, yes.
Yeah,
I started December 2nd, 2024. So when you start, the new year, it's easy to count it down. January's first month, February's the second month. So that's how I'm keeping track, if I'm being honest with you.
That's good. It's just all these little things. It's like Obama back in the day saying, look, I just want to wear a black suit or a blue suit and a white shirt. I got a lot of decisions to make. I'm taking out some people made fun of him for that. I always no, I want to limit my decisions.
There you go.
A lot of really more important decisions to make. But we've had you on. You were at Literacy Mid-South. We had you on Behind the Headlines, the show over on KNO some time ago. And we'll circle back to some of that. But for people, let's do the quick version. Sure. And then we'll go deeper into Bridges. But for people, who said, wait, you took this job at Bridges. What are you doing? How do you describe it?
Yeah, so Bridges, is a 100-plus-year-old organization with roots going back to the 1920s. I want to say since 1988, Bridges has exclusively been doing what we call the Bridge Builder Summer Program. And that's how a lot of people know Bridges, through the Bridge Builder Summer Program. As far as our mission, we are rooted in youth leadership development. We are an organization that believes in equity and inclusion and the amplification of youth voice to achieve equity and inclusion and community change for Memphis. So, when you think about, I have had people ask, how did you go from Literacy Mid-South to Bridges? The through line there is the connection with youth. A lot of the work that I did at Literacy Mid-South was focused on first through fifth grade, increasing reading proficiency and literacy rates. This is another iteration of working with youth, albeit working within a youth leadership development component.
Roughly what grade, grades, however you do it, for Bridges are you working with?
Yeah, we work with rising 7th through rising 12th grade.
Okay.
And again, to that point, I know we'll get into it in the discussion. The summer program is where we do the introduction into the program, but we have programming and workshops and trainings throughout the year, but still engage in that 7th through 12th grade age range.
And about how many kids a year go through?
Oh, man. Our last couple of years, we've had somewhere around 2,800 to 3,000 students. And that is per year throughout the year.
Yeah.
When we divvy it up, those numbers come up a little bit different. So anywhere from 600 to 800 participating in the summer program. And then the other numbers that support that 3,000 number come through the trainings and the workshops. And we do a youth voice summit every year at the beginning of the year that attracts about 300, 400 students. And just kind of adding all that together, we get close to 3,000 students served a year.
Two of those kids, one is sitting next to me, alum Natalie Van Gundy, the producer of The Sidebar, all our podcasts, who people here doing news, and also produces Behind the Headlines. And Jared Boyd, who is program manager. People familiar with YXR definitely know Jared. Full disclosure, I'm a board member of WYXR. And Jared was I remember when he moved back to Memphis, moved back to Memphis from Alabama, was a reporter at Daily Memphian for it. I've never in my life, I met a lot of people who are bridge builders. I've never in my life met someone who is such an advocate for bridges and bridge builder as Jared Boyd. Jared will, in the best possible way, will let you know how it changed his life, how important a program it is, all of that.
Yeah, and Jared is on our board.
Yeah.
So, I run into him quite a bit. And also, Jared is one of those people, he's a man about town.
Oh, yeah.
I'll run into him here at Crosstown. I may run into him at a coffee shop over on Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
Jared is everywhere.
Yeah.
He's like Batman. Just everywhere, right?
That's the question. Is there more than one Jared?
Right. So, I've never seen, Jared and Batman in the same room at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got my thoughts there, right?
But what if he was a twin and he's been fooling us all the time? Because it is true. I saw him literally walking into Crosstown today where we're recording on the 7th floor, and we chatted with Jared for a minute. And I didn't even make the connection that I was about to interview you. Were you a bridge builder?
I was not. I'm not a native Memphian.
Yeah.
But my son, my middle child, completed the bridge builder program this summer.
Okay.
So I
kind of didn't have a choice, did he?
Not really. That's one of the perks of being like dad and CEO.
I'm better for it.
Right.
Yeah.
But even that was an experience because, you can experience Bridges as an employee and you can see things, you can look at everything that makes the program go. But I also got to experience as a dad, right? And Natalie, I know you're familiar. When the students are in the summer program, that's 1 week that they are living residential at the University of Memphis.
Okay.
And we take their phones.
Yeah.
So there is no electronic communication every day.
Good.
Just with friends and whatnot. So, but we do give them, like an hour or two window. Like, do you need to call home? Do you need to get anything? So the first day I dropped him off on a Monday at noon. He called me, I want to say maybe 9:00 that same day, that Monday. And he calls and he says, "Hey, Dad." I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? So how can I help you?" He's like, "I need snacks." So
it's a teenage boy.
Right.
He's got to fuel every hour.
Right. So I bring him snacks and he doesn't call me the rest of the week.
That's so great. That's so good.
So I chalked that up to, one, they were extremely busy.
Yep.
But two, he was highly engaged in something that he was interested in.
Yeah.
So I was smiling and laughing and, feeling a little bit dejected, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the week, when we picked him up, he's talking, he's chatting, he's talking about the people he met, talking about the places he's been, the things he's learned. And I do see just a change in just, I would say a bit more, not necessarily his confidence, but I would say his confidence bolstered with information.
Yeah.
About what goes on in this city.
Yeah. Yeah. How does the no phone thing go over?
It varies per child, right?
Yeah. I personally love it. I think it's great. But
yeah. So it
right, what that they're going to do. But still, most of these kids, when's the last time, it was probably before they had a kid, they had a phone that they went a whole week without a phone.
Right.
Right. It's just, the studies, more seriously, there's a lot of interesting studies coming out. Kids, it is not good for kids. You got more and more schools going to limited phone access or no phone access. And that there's at least some data and a lot of anecdotal evidence that the kids actually love it. If everyone doesn't have a phone,
right,
they love not having a phone.
And I think that's the thing, because everyone did not have their phone.
Yeah.
It worked out quite well. But we asked the parents when they come back for the closing ceremonies, we asked them, did your child call you? Who did not receive a phone call?
That's an awkward moment.
And some parents like, my kid didn't call me all week. I was trying to figure out what's going on. And the kid is all embarrassed and like I was kind of vibing here, Dad. I was in my element, right?
Yeah.
But it goes over well, to your point. I think when everybody does not have their phone.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of obsessed with it. My kids were old, and and this is not just for you. It is a big regret of mine that we didn't have the kids do bridge builders. I don't know why we didn't. We should have. So that's a regret. My kids are 25, 26 now, 27. But they were just ahead of the phone thing, where we were able to limit what they had, and but they knew people around them that were starting to get in a lot of trouble with a phone. Mm-hmm. And I think it is, in all seriousness, a real scourge. This is my rant for, not that kids shouldn't have any phones, but the ubiquity and the constant being on social media and all that. I think it's going to be an interesting next 5, 6, 7 years as more and more schools
start to pull
away and probably find a lot of healthy benefits from that. That's my rant for the day. I'll remind everyone, we're here with Sam O'Brien. He's president and CEO of Bridges, was at Literacy Mid-South. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Greenwood, Mississippi.
Okay. Wow. Greenwood's great and interesting and strange and an amazing amount of history in Greenwood. Yeah.
So, the story there is Greenwood, of course, geographically, by time, in the South, we measure distance by time.
Yeah.
So it's about 2 hours south of here.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that people have to grasp is the Mississippi Delta. Memphis serves in many ways as that closest big city to the Mississippi Delta. So for me, My first interaction with Memphis, the first zoo I ever went to was a Memphis zoo. The first big mall I ever visited was the Mall of Memphis. We used to come to Liberty Land, a bunch of summers. The first museum I ever visited was the Pink Palace Museum.
That's so great.
So Memphis being the closest big city, but also being that cultural center for a lot of smaller towns in the Mississippi Delta, there's this natural attraction, I think, that happens there. But prior to living in Memphis, I lived in Little Rock for about 8 years. Okay. But Memphis, in many ways, is an extension or an inclusion of the Mississippi Delta. When you think about, even when people move from the small towns, they come here to find opportunity and employment. Yeah. So there's always that connection back to the region.
Sometime I moved to Memphis 30 years ago, not from the South, from the Northwest and the Northeast. And so the South was all new. I'd visited Memphis quite a bit in the few years before I moved here. But somewhere around that time, I have no sense of time anymore. I read Rising Tide, which is a book that's a history of the floods, the 28 floods. It's very much centered on Greenwood, and then it's all about the Delta. It's really a story of the American South, good and bad, and all the complications. And it is the most amazing book about the culture of music, the culture of writing, the culture of commerce, and all that. And it's very centered in Greenwood and a couple of key people from there. And it was the most. Memphis doesn't even play a big role in it, and yet it's all about Memphis. It's right. It just is because of that connection to the Delta and to cities and places like Greenwood. Let me take a minute here and do some housekeeping. I'll come back here with Samuel Brandt from Bridges. I'll remind everyone I'm Eric Barnes, and this is The Sidebar. It airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30, focused on the community, arts, culture, and everything in between. It's not just a radio show, though. It's one of many podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including our new morning podcast, I should say, the AM/DM with Natalie Van Gundy, our producer, and Mary Casciola, and lots of various members of the staff of the Daily Memphian. It's about a 15-minute morning podcast that people can get up to date on the news and take a deeper dive on a couple of stories, or just one story most of the time. We also have our Memphis Grizzlies podcast with Chris Harrington and Drew Hill, and our food podcast, Sound Bites, which airs on WYXR as well. That's Thursday at 11, right before The Sidebar. I mentioned Behind the Headlines. We host the podcast version of Behind the Headlines. It's the TV show we produce with the good folks over at WKNO every week. All of our podcasts are on the Daily Memphian site, as well as iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get the WYXR shows at WYXR.org or on the WYXR app. That includes all the talk shows, the music shows, the live stream, archives of shows. All of that is available at WYXR. Do consider becoming a member of WYXR. It's nonprofit, listener-supported radio. And as most people probably listening to this have heard, the federal funding for public broadcasting was cut. And so WYXR took about a $100,000 annual hit to its budget. WKNO, I mentioned, took an even bigger hit given they have a TV station and so on. So think about public radio, public television right now. Consider supporting if you can. Also, if you're not a paid subscriber to the Daily Memphian, do consider becoming one. Subscriptions pay probably a little over half of our, I don't know why I say probably, I know exactly what the number is. It's 53%. Pay 53% of our budget at the Daily Memphian. We also are a nonprofit and the largest newsroom in the region. Recently on the Sidebar, we had Casey Murley from Overton Park Conservancy. We had the folks from Young Avenue Sound, the recording studio in Cooper Young. And coming up next week, we've got David Lusk from the David Lusk Gallery, who's actually celebrating 30 years of his gallery being open here in Memphis. On Behind the Headlines, coming up soon, we've got show MLGW, Doug McGowan and Ursula Madden on the show at the same time. Speaking of two people who are never in the same place, they're going to be in the same place. We also have a show with Shondell Ryan from the Downtown Memphis Commission coming up. And recent shows include shows on the Memphis-Shelby County School Board, both with board members, and another show with two state legislators, and a show on affordable housing, also a show on the Mississippi Boulevard redevelopment in Midtown. Last bit of housekeeping, our small business seminar is coming up September 18th at 3:30 at the Botanic Garden. And you can get tickets to that. You do need to get tickets. You can go to the Daily Memphian, choose seminars from the menu, from the navigation, or go to Eventbrite and search for Daily Memphian to get tickets for that. But again, we are still here with Samuel Brandt, President and CEO of Bridges. How did you, there is a through line. You were talking about the through line from Literacy Mid-South. In Little Rock, you were working in, I just drew a blank. Your career, it's kind of this through line of not the same thing, but similar themes.
Similar themes, yeah. So when I moved to Little Rock, man, goodness, Eric, 2004. The first, I say this as like, sometimes when we get out of undergrad, we kind of bounce around on the smaller jobs or the temporary jobs. So like the first quote unquote real job, and I say that because I had a plastic ID that I used to get into the building. I worked for Pulaski County Youth Services.
There we go.
And to kind of paint that picture, every county government in Arkansas had a juvenile services component, which in many ways dealt with juvenile detention. Pulaski County, which Little Rock is located, had the state's only youth services program, which focused on after-school programs, summer programs, and things of the sort. That's where I cut my teeth. So I learned a lot about, the trend of programming that youth need from year to year. Learned a bit about, trends in fundraising, like what is the idea that pushes youth programming forward, and just kind of grew out of there. All the work that I've done since then has been either connected to youth or connected to community development. And that through line, again, with youth-related, youth-adjacent work, it starts there at Pulaski County Youth Services. And then
was it School Seed?
Yes.
What was that? That was in Memphis.
That was in Memphis. So,
okay.
I tell people, I wish I had like some glorious story about how I got to School Seed, but shout out to Vince McCaskill. I think he just took mercy on me, and he knew I was a guy looking for a job.
Yeah.
But Vince also saw the work that I did in youth services,
gotcha.
Right? And School Seed's work, School Seed in many ways then served as a backbone organization to a lot of the large-scale funding that then Memphis City Schools was receiving through the Gates Foundation. And
okay.
I think there was money from the Race to the Top grant that
the federal program.
The federal program. So School Seed in many ways served as a backbone organization in the co-management of those funds. But that for me, it was looking behind the curtain, right? Yeah. I saw how a school district worked in this sort of fund accumulation. I saw how school districts work with community partners. I saw how community partners also had input or influence into the way that programs exist within a school district. So it was an eye opener in different ways.
In general, and not like looking for gossip or anything, but just sort of what works and what doesn't, and what is a pretty difficult task in a lot of cases, right?
Right.
I mean, you were Literacy Mid-South, you're talking about kids trying to hit these reading levels. We know the reading scores in Memphis Shelby County schools and in other schools, Millington and other schools around the state. It's not just picking on MSCS. You're talking about after-school youth programs, it's funny, you remind me of the Gates money. I mean, it was a lot of money. Race to the Top put a lot of money into schools that had innovative and creative things. I'm sure some things worked and some things didn't. That's like anything.
Yeah.
What are the themes through all this, if there are any, of what makes it work well?
Right. So I think I go to the Gates work. The Gates work really focused on effective teaching. And what that looks like is like, what does it look like? How do you hire a person to become an effective teacher? How do you measure? How do you evaluate them being an effective teacher? How do you compensate effective teachers? And then ultimately, how do you build a culture and climate that continues to support them being an effective teacher? So the Gates work, in many ways, it was funding what you would say a paradigm shift into rethinking what a person needs to be an effective teacher. And a lot of that work has stuck, so, you can look at it, evaluation, compensation, a lot of those things did stick from that funding that supported that. The Race to the Top money, I think, was largely connected to the Achievement School District and creating that statewide, what do you want to say, that statewide...
The network, or the district within a district almost, right?
And so that was funding for that period of time to fund that model of that model of education delivery. Other things I think that kind of stuck out of that, kind of pulled out of that, was a closer, more intentional examination of the work that community partners provide.
Define a community partner or example, if you can.
So I will use Literacy Mid-South as an example. Also pulling from what I learned from School Seed. The work that we did at Literacy Mid-South, we had to be intentional about alignment. So the curriculum and the workbooks that we use were district endorsed. The individuals that we hired were fingerprint checked and background checked by the school district. We had, I would say, shared metrics that were established with the district's data team. We had shared expectations that were established by the district's academic team. That sort of work came through both, I think, the Gates work and through the Race to the Top, because, oftentimes you can have well-intended community partners that may be just outside of, what the district may be looking to do.
Right.
But when they're brought in and kind of given criteria and standards about the goals that the district is trying to meet, then you can get like some really effective strategic partnerships going.
Yeah. And then for all that sort of stuff, there's got to be a fine line, I would think, between doing it to hit the metric and then doing it to have really successful experiences for kids and outcomes for kids. And hopefully the metrics are in line with right, the outcome for the kid. That's why we're, the money and the effort and all of it is about that. Sometimes probably not. I mean, or did you feel like you've always been in places where those metrics and those goals were in alignment with really having a positive, good learning experience for a kid?
I think that's where you lean more so on growth, and that's, looking at if we started working with students in the fall and we'll just use some arbitrary numbers and we'll just say that, they're reading, they're reading at a 5 right now and the goal is 15. The closer you get to 15, that's growth. So you may not get fully to 15, maybe you get to 11 or 12. That's still growth from 5. And that's how you have to look at it.
Do you also look at that? We talk a lot right now because scores and so much pressure on Memphis Shelby County schools. And we've done lots of writing about that, Laura Testino, Daily Memphian. We've done a number of shows on it, as I mentioned, Behind the Headlines. But down to the micro level, when you talk about a group of kids going, let's say it's a group of 15 kids, you're trying to get them from 5 to 15. I do sometimes feel like we in the media and the public commentary are guilty of the law of averages. Of those kids who are in that program, some of them maybe got to 15.
Right.
Some of them thrived. Some of them it clicked, and some it didn't. But we kind of just say, well, everybody got to a 7.
Right.
Meh, didn't work.
Yeah,
but that's so, especially when you start talking about big 100,000 kids.
Exactly right.
Like, so how do you make sense of that for me?
You brought up a good point about disaggregating data, right? And I would say that you can disaggregate data all day long, and you should, but it's hard to find an audience for listening to.
That's why this show and Behind the Headlines exist.
Right, and to your point, like there are some folks who are gonna just they'll see that 7, and it's it's a confirmation bias.
Yeah,
and they will just stick with that 7, and then you'll find others who will say, well, lay out the numbers for me, a bit more and explain to me what happened. And and then we have the wherewithal and the ability to do that. But I think that just also goes to just the different sort of folks you'll encounter when it comes to the audience overall that's looking at this.
I could talk this way for you for an hour, and I'm thinking the first time we met, I can't remember, somebody introduced us and we had coffee downtown at
Hustle and Dough.
Hustle and Dough, sat outside, and you and I talked like this, I swear to God, for an hour and a half. Like, I'm sure some people listening going, you're really in the weeds there, Eric, but I find it fascinating that the people who do the work and are hands-on about it and live it and have had successes with it is, to me, like endlessly fascinating.
Yeah, it's one of those things that no two people in Memphis are the same. Yeah. And you're going to have a message that talks about what you've done, and then understand that, again, because no two people are the same, someone's going to like it and someone's going to just go with the number they heard and keep running with it. I'll
segue a little bit, and I think I remember talking to you about this. when you were on Behind the Headlines, we're 5 years-ish from, peak COVID, totally lost about what we were doing. And there, it was particularly hard on, I think the data's clear. It wasn't great for anyone really, but it was particularly hard on kids, school-age kids, rise of absenteeism and delinquency, some, maybe connected to the big jump in crime around the country. And these are all national issues, if not global issues. I'm not picking on Memphis. Having lived through that and now being at Bridges, your thoughts on like the scarring, if it's fair to say that, or just the hangover, or maybe even some positives from COVID in the space of youth that you work in?
I think that I can use my daughter as an example. My daughter started kindergarten during COVID.
Yeah,
and the first couple of years, you could see I could see a difference in how she made friends, how she connected with people. Then say from my two older children, my sons. Now by no means is my daughter a wallflower. She's very sociable, but there was kind of this speed bump to get over.
Yeah,
because you did spend, we'd all spent a significant amount of time, socially distanced. And I think that's what we have to look at like 5 years since then. So, say for us with Bridges, the students that we brought in the first time, they're going into the 7th grade, right? They were going into the 2nd grade during COVID. And 2nd grade is one of those pivotal years where you are interfacing with your classmates a little bit more because you're growing out of that kindergarten, 1st grade leaning.
Yeah.
So it's like you can tie your shoes now.
Hopefully.
You're probably not taking naps anymore. So you're getting out of those spaces and you're coming into the 2nd grade, and now boom, we're learning on the computer screen.
Yeah.
So now it's incumbent upon us to kind of think about what happened that year that may carry over into right now. And when we understand what carried over into now, we have to be cognizant to now say, how do we navigate that? How do we work around that, right?
And the kid, if my math is right, and it might not be, the kids you had in maybe virtual programs before you were there at Bridges, and when they were 7th graders, they're 12th graders.
12th graders,
right? So do you see, or even kids who are 6th, 7th, and now they're in these 10th, 11th grades? Are they all fine?
I would say that they are progressing quite well toward fine.
Yeah.
Again, trying to pull this to a personal level, right? So my 3 children they all entered, I would say, pivotal grades during COVID.
Yeah.
My oldest was going into 9th grade, which is the first year of high school. Yep. My middle kid was going into 6th grade, which was the first year of middle school. And my youngest was going into kindergarten. So I've had a chance to watch each of them.
You must be exhausted, by the way. The kids at every age, every challenge. Anyway, sorry, that's a digression.
No, that's a whole nother podcast.
Okay,
man.
We'll do a parenting podcast.
but again, I had to think about that because my son that was in 9th grade, he just finished his freshman year of college, and he's thriving. He's fine. He's doing quite well. My middle kid, he is going into he started the 11th grade, and he's thriving. He's fine. Same thing with my daughter. I think what I had to do as a parent was kind of understand again where some things might be a little bit slower, where some adjustments may just take a little bit longer to get to, and how do we coach them through that? And as a program provider, as a leader of an organization that works with children, we have to be cognizant of that as well.
Again, I could talk to you for a whole another hour about all this stuff, but we'll have you back here or on Behind the Headlines or both at some point. So Sam O'Brien, thanks so much for being here. A question I always try to ask people at the end, what was the first concert you went to?
Oh my goodness. The first concert I've been to? Oh goodness. Do you remember Kwame? He was a hip hop artist. He used to wear the polka dot shirts.
No, but
oh wow. Okay, so
no, I like that. That's great. That's the first.
This goes back to Greenwood, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And also kind of a little bit, my parents used to own a record store in Greenwood.
Oh, wow.
And part of my Memphis experience, we used to visit Popular Tunes because they would do wholesale distribution of records and tapes. And we would purchase records and tapes wholesale, sell them retail in Greenwood. Okay. Anyway, where I'm getting at, in Greenwood, a lot of the different spots that would sell tickets to concerts would be like the service station everyone goes to. It may be the actual box office at the venue where the event is going to be.
Sure.
And my parents' record store. So I got tickets to like a lot of like up and coming hip hop artists that would kind of do this sort of chitlin circuit through Greenwood, Mississippi. First concert was Kwame. And like just to kind of, Kwame was one of those guys. It was like Kwame, Kid and Play, Salt and Pepper. They were kind of all in that same, cohort of rappers at the time. And for whatever reason, Kwame wanted to, well, I'm going to say wanted to, but he had a show that was coming through Greenwood, Mississippi. And all I can remember is like, that's the dude with the polka dot shirts.
Nice.
And so that was the first concert that I attended.
How old, give or take?
11, maybe?
Yeah. That's good. That's first on that one. Sam O'Brien, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it. If you missed any of the show today, you can get the full episode online at Daily Memphian, at WYXR, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.